Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning. I bid to Sir Zamzurin Muhammad Daud, my lecturer for Professional Ethics subject. So, at this moment, I, Muhammad Noor Syafiq, will be presenting a topic titled COVID-19 presents a moral crisis, not just a medical one. COVID-19, or also known as coronavirus disease, is a newly arrived infectious disease into the world. When focusing in this kind of pandemic, human beings like us often keep an eye on the fact of medical issues such as the production of vaccine, ways to not get contact with infectious people, and many more. Despite this fact, it is also important to obtain a clear view on how this COVID-19 pandemic has influenced individuals' morality and ethics worldwide. Some might change towards positive morals, but the major component is always the negative one, as it is clearly seeable day by day throughout this pandemic. In my point of view, I believe that there are four main moral crises have existed during this pandemic. The first moral or ethical challenges that the world needs to wrestle now is there are some medical staffs around the world have decided to focus on the quantity of patients that should be saved, neglecting the fact of saving patients with the most urgent need. In countries such as Italy, China, United Kingdom, and Spain, the frontline medical staffs are in dilemma to handle this issue as their number of cases per day have almost reached about 600,000 cases, which is a lot. From an ethical standpoint, it is fundamental for the lifesavers to focus on ethics of morality, which comes under the deontology theory, where they must treat patients who are at risk, like elderly patients, in serious conditions. Instead, they have decided to believe in ethics of outcome, which is utilitarianism, where they wanted to save the largest number of lives. This moral burden should not only be blamed on the medical staffs, but also the country's government, as they are equally responsible in sacrificing the elderly's lives in order to get a good name and good progress in the world statistics provided by the World Health Organization (WHO). This moral crisis proposes a new question: who should get the shot of vaccine when it becomes available in the future? Will the vaccine first go to more vulnerable people or people with high social utility? These questions pose an ethical issue similar to questions of who will be treated first. Moving on to the second moral crisis during this pandemic. It is where the individuals love to spread fake news and rumors about the COVID-19 pandemic. This thing makes the current situation more dangerous than any before. Sylvie Bryan, the director of World Health Organization's Infectious Hazard Management Department, says that they could not have better emphasized ways on how to control this vicious outbreak. In fact, he has declared infodemic, or also known as information pandemic, as the biggest influencer, as it has the power to affect the thought of many people around the world regarding the updates about COVID-19. In addition, I categorize the spread of fake news as a moral crisis because it leads to slander towards the hardworking frontliners, medical staffs, and other workers, as if they did not do their job to the fullest. The question here is why they need to spread those unverified informations. It is obviously because they have nothing to do during this pandemic. Thus, they have generated social media such as Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Twitter to obfuscate critical information and make finding the truth seems impossible to others. For example, in a WhatsApp message a few weeks ago, it was said that the virus can be treated with ketum leaves. When it comes for the sake of preventing ourselves from coronavirus, this information might seem true for most of the people in the world. Thus, they will begin to share and forward this message to billions of people without reconfirming the validity of this news. Hence, it will remain as a true belief in everyone until the autonomy confirms that the issue is fake and not valid. Next up, I propose pornography as another moral crisis during this COVID-19 pandemic. Regardless of all businesses that are experiencing a downturn, the only business that jumped over is the pornography business. Pornhub, the world's largest pornography website, has reported an 18% of increment in its usage since it provides free premium content throughout this pandemic. What does this mean? COVID-19 pandemic drive individuals towards a huge scope of exposure to pornography business. The reason is just the same at the end of the day, which is because individuals are experiencing boredom during this social isolation period. A part of masturbation, individuals right now are normalizing their utilization of pornography for their pleasure and to cope with their loneliness feeling. By doing so, they barely feel that they can satisfy their lust as well as declining their negative emotions of stress since they are staying at home all the time with lack number of outdoor entertainments. It may look as a very personal moral issue, but if the number of men and women who are exposed to this immoral business increases day by day, imagine the effects in the future. All individuals might lose their noble friendships with their same or different gender friends, as sexual arousal will be their dominant aim in a relationship. Furthermore, after the pandemic, rape cases will possibly rise to the peak if pornography rules the minds of individuals during this pandemic. Hence, humanity will be lost in the future and resulting this unethical behavior to gradually continue in our lives without a full stop. The last moral and ethical crisis that can be pointed out is the domestic violence. According to a recent survey by the Human Rights Organization, at least 4,249 women and 456 children per country were subjected to domestic violence, with some of the women and children were facing this violence for the first time in their lives. The victims around the world were blaming the lockdown for this kind of situations to occur in their homes. Why is this possible? As the head of family, most of the husbands are becoming easily frustrated at home due to a lack of social interaction and monthly income to support their families. Instead, some of them have lost their jobs due to this COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. This indirectly makes them angry and drive them to vent their frustration by torturing their wives and children. Recently in Bangladesh, a husband has live-streamed the murder of his wife on Facebook. He killed his wife with a machete in home, reportedly over a financial dispute. This one incident becomes a massive proof that indicates the loss of affection and respect of a man towards his wife and other family members just because of a small financial pressure. This comes under the moral crisis category because the loss of love in a family will conflict with the husband's action to go criminally. The increment in rifts within families will soon kill virtues and justice in each man and will spoil the lives of many happy families in the future. In a nutshell, all the four moral crises that were discussed throughout this presentation are precisely focusing the self-control of a human being in a decision-making process. It is not only applicable for those who are involved in overcoming this critical situation, such as the frontliners and the government, but it is vital for each and every human being that exists on the earth today. The virus is being controlled and soon will be killed by the experts. But we have to know how to control ourselves and how to have a very good self-discipline. Thus, that's all from my presentation for today. Stay safe, stay home. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.